Hello and welcome to REGO-FIX Tech Chat. My name is David McHenry. I am the Engineering and Technical Manager here at REGO-FIX USA. Today, I want to talk about material hardness. Not the materials you're machining, but the tool holder material hardness that you get from us. Everything from our ER line of tool holders all the way through our extensions and power grip. What hardness are they? How are they hardened, and why are they hardened that way? Let's start with tool holders, your normal taper type. All of our tool holders are about 60 Rockwell. Now your spindle is about 70 Rockwell, so it's much harder, and that's a good thing. Because if you have any damage, well, you want it to happen to the tool holder, not to your spindle. So it's fine that these are softer than your spindle. But how are they hardened, and why are they hardened that way? All of our tool holders are surface hardened, which means they have a very hard outside shell that is a depth of anywhere from, say 0.6 millimeters and up, depending on the type of tool holder being used. So it's not very thick, but it's thick enough to give you a really hard shell. The inner material is unhardened, and it's somewhere around that 45 Rockwell, depending on the type of tool holder being used. Now, why is that important to you? Well, the outside shell gives you that longevity. It's very hard. It can take some abuse. It gives you lots of rigidity. But that inside softer core, it's good for vibration dampening, and it stops catastrophic failures. Now, what's a catastrophic failure? Well, when HSK holders first came out, there was a big debate on whether to have through hardened or surface hardened for the type of tool holder being made. Well, if you know anything about HSK tool holders, they're very thin on the taper. That's what allows it to deform and fit into your spindle. But that thin material, if it's hardened all the way through, well, it's subject to that catastrophic failure, which means if a crack starts, it doesn't propagate slowly. It fails immediately and violently. I remember several cases where actual tool holders were snapped off at the HSK taper, and the tool holder body was flung up against the side of the inside of the CNC machine. Now, those weren't REGO-FIX, obviously. But I remember the case coming up. So by going with a surface hardness, you keep that soft material, which keeps those catastrophic failures from happening and gives you time to catch it while it's in the cracking stage and keep it from failing in a violent manner. Now, when we talk about the steep taper tool holders, they're the exact same way. It's surface hardened on the outside, and the inner core is not hardened all the way through. So that is called surface hardening, and again, it's about 0.6 millimeters deep and up, inner material about 45 Rockwell. When it comes to the ER collet itself, it's a little bit different. The ER collet itself is actually through hardened all the way through. So it's one base material hardness all the way through, gives you a nice hard body, and allows you some flex. Now, how hard is that? It's around that 45 Rockwell. So that allows flexibility, gives you a nice hard material to squeeze up against, but allows it to flex. Because you're squeezing the collet in, you want it to grab a hold of the cutting tool, and that hardness allows it to deflect enough to give you high clamping forces and high grip. The key here is not getting it too hard. Again, like I mentioned with the tool holders, if you get it too hard, catastrophic failure will occur. Well, that's something that REGO-FIX has eliminated, and we've mastered the process of maintaining our hardness for repeatability in your applications. High Q nuts. Well, the high Q process is part of the hardening process. It's a chemical impregnation to the metal itself. It creates a very, very hard surface, but it's a very thin, hard, slick surface that it creates. So you could say our nuts are surface hardened, and they maintain a softer core value for that deflection and long life. When we get to straight shank tool holders, a lot of the same stuff applies. They are surface hardened just like the standard tool holders, but there are some differences in the type of design and material used. When we talk about a straight shank holder with a mini nut, this material is a much tougher material than, say, used in an HSK or a cat holder. It has to be. And it has to be because of the fine threads that are used on this holder. So the hardening process has to be monitored very, very carefully, and you don't want to get it too hard or you end up with failures on the threads themselves. I'm sure you guys have seen this in your shop using low quality tooling. You've seen cases where the threads have cracked or been pulled. Well, in most of those cases, the tool holder was probably too hard. I know this is a lot of information about hardness and kind of why we do it, but I wanted to make sure we got it out there, make sure everybody knows the type of quality you're going to get from the REGO-FIX brand. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to the REGO-FIX tech team. We're here to answer your questions and to help.